Well, I got a phone call yesterday afternoon from Carol Rhodes. And she said, I think she was in the process of trying to ask me to sing special music. And I said, wait a minute. I said, I'm already going to sing special music tomorrow, and guess what? You're not just going to have to listen to me sing, you have to listen to me speak. So she's getting more than she bargained for. But it was already planned, so we can't blame this on her. Anyway, I also told her, I said, I don't know, we may get out early tomorrow. But then she and I started talking, and it must have been 40 minutes later. I said, maybe I should just interview you for the sermon tomorrow, and it'll be done at 12 o'clock, so, or maybe later. But she didn't volunteer to do that, so I'll go ahead with what we prepared. But if some of you were here back in, I think it was in March, we had several of the staff and teachers from Battle Creek Academy came and put the service on. And I had been working to try to get that scheduled for some time and got everything worked out. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to be here that day because I wasn't probably able to stand. I wouldn't have been able to stand for long enough to even do special music, leave alone speak. And so I was disappointed I couldn't be here, but I think Jared, he decided that I should get my chance to participate in that service. And so he asked me if I would come and do my part today. So that's how I ended up in this situation. So God wanted to give me a few more months to of history to prepare for this moment in history. And as you look in your bulletin, the title of the sermon today is called His Story or History. So how many of you here can say that history was your favorite class when you were in school? If you raise your hands if it was. Well, I got 1.5 hands raised. And it's not because the other half got, anyway. I know when I was in school, it wasn't my favorite class. I mean, I was more interested in biology and physiology and that kind of stuff, and that's kind of where I ended up where I am now. But history I thought was kind of boring, and I was dead back then. I was alive back, not even alive back then, not dead. And so what difference did that make? And as a kid, I didn't really see a lot of use in history. But as I finally attained the senior discount status on Wednesdays at Family Fair, I have seen that history has become more interesting to me. There's a lot you can learn from studying history. And and my wife and I have just celebrated 32 years of wedded history yesterday. So I promise you that she's learned a lot in the last 32 years about me, things she probably didn't know in the first 5 years that we hung around together. So like I said, there's lots to learn about history, from history. And when you think about it, what's the Bible? The Bible is really his story, a history book. And so Ellen White in Testimonies for the Church, Volume 9, page 10 says, this quote most all of us have heard many, many times, "We have nothing to fear for the future except that we forget the way the Lord has led us and his teachings in our past history." So today I want to give you an overview of the history of something that's near and dear to my heart. And actually, you may not even know it, but it's near and dear to your heart too, or at least near and dear to your church's budget. At Battle Creek Academy. If Don was here today, he could tell us exactly what percentage of the combined budget goes towards Battle Creek Academy every month. But I'll let him tell us that when he's here on another day. But if you look at, and I saw some still laying in the pews at the nominating committee report, you'll see that I'm this Delton Church's at-large representative to the Battle Creek Academy board, and I've been the board chair for the past year. My roots kind of run deep at Battle Creek Academy. I was a student and graduated from there. I taught at BCA for 4 years, and I see one of my students on the back row who's trying to hold back a smile. I think she enjoyed that year at least. Christine back there. Yes, we sent all 3 of our children to BCA, and my youngest one, Katie, right up here in the front row, is going to be I don't know what you call it, a freshman. Now I guess they'd call it a fresh person or a fresh woman. I'm trying to be politically correct this coming school year at BCA. 2 of my nephews graduated from there. My son teaches at BCA, and he's passionate about the mission of the school. I've been on the school board for the past 8 or 9 years, so you can see those roots kind of run deep. So first of all, how many of you know that this is one of 3 constituent churches that support BCA? Okay, so a majority of you know that. And yes, it's true. So the other 2 churches are the Urbandale Adventist Church and the Battle Creek Tabernacle. So the 3 of our churches together support that school and have done so for years. Next question. How many of you know where Battle Creek Academy is located? Okay, we're getting about the same. And I also asked then how many of you have actually been on the campus at Battle Creek Academy? All right. So how many of you think that Battle Creek Academy was the second Adventist church-sponsored school? You got that one right too. It's not. It was the first. It was the first Adventist church-sponsored school. How many of you have been to the Adventist Historical Village in Battle Creek? All right, about half of us. So, Battle Creek, just down the road a piece, is filled with Adventist history. And if you haven't had a chance to take the tour, I think it's time for us to set up a field trip. So, this school is not only a mission field for our own young people, but also for a large population of what is now referred to as Myanmar or Burmese immigrant children. They make up about half of our student body at BCA. We also have students from the local neighborhood whose parents want a Christ-centered education for their children, something that the public system doesn't offer. So this school is a great mission field right literally in our backyard. Our Adventist history tells us that it was young people that played a large role in the birth of this denomination. And it is the young people that are the future of the church. So either we got to go find some more for this church or we got to make some. We need more young people to keep this church alive. I commend this church specifically for supporting not only the Delton View School in the Philippines, but for its longtime support of Battle Creek Academy. So as Jared said, this is a small little building and a small little congregation, but we've taken on great challenge to support two different schools. Over the years, many of the young people from this congregation, and there were times when there were lots of them in this congregation, have attended BCA. While that number is just a few today, the support is needed now more than ever, and I commend you in supporting the future of our church. Think about this. How many children or teachers at BCA do you personally know? Now, for Mindy, that's not fair because she knows a lot of them because she works there. But, and I know my daughter, and I'm on the school. But the rest of you, there's probably not very many of the people that are there currently. Do you know? Now, think about this. How many children or teachers at Delton View in the Philippines do you personally know? Maybe Carol knows some. If that'd be the closest we could probably get somebody that knows them. But guess what? You don't know very many of them either. But guess what? We still support both of those institutions. We know that the dollar stretches farther in the Philippines than it does here in the United States, but we've been instructed to not let that deter us from neglecting the support of our own youth locally. Child Guidance, page 314, says this: give to missions, but do not neglect the youth at home. That's the heading. Shall the members of the church give means to advance the cause of Christ among others and leave their own children to carry on the work and service of Satan? While we should put forth earnest efforts for the masses of these people around us and push the work into foreign fields, no amount of labor in this line can excuse us for neglecting the education of our children and youth. They are to be trained to become workers for God. Both parents and teachers, by precepts and example, are so to instill the principles of truth and honesty into the minds and hearts of the young that they will become men and women who are as true as steel to God and His cause. Let me tell you a little bit about what BCA is about. BCA's mission is the following: to provide a safe, nurturing, Christ-centered, Seventh-day Adventist educational program that promotes excellence in our students' spiritual, academic, physical, and social development to prepare them for service in this world and in the world to come. Now, that's our mission statement. As a board, we were challenged, because it used to be a lot longer, and we were challenged to make that really concise. And you know how some people have the gift of gab? Actually, most people have the gift of gab, and very few have the gift of being concise. It's kind of like a songwriter. You can write a whole sermon, that takes about 3 minutes to sing, instead of having to listen to it for 45 minutes. So I should have probably wrote a song for this and then just sat down. But since I didn't do that, you're going to have to listen to this. We just felt like we just couldn't just have that mission statement, because we wanted to explain even more and more what those words meant. And so we distilled it down to that sentence I just read to you. And then we put the rest as the explanation of what we call our philosophy. So I'm going to go over that with you, but I want you to think about the following, our philosophy at BCA, as an alternative to what the youth in general of today are being offered in the public system. The contrast is rather obvious. So this is our philosophy statement. We believe that man and the universe are the handiwork of God, our divine creator. We believe He sustains all, is the source of all true knowledge and wisdom, and His revealed will is the standard of right and truth. We promote a distinctive educational program that strives for character and life development within the context of the Seventh-day Adventist Church mission, worldview, and educational philosophies. We seek partnerships with families and the homes of our students and the local Seventh-day Adventist churches in preparing young people for their eternal home. We pursue excellence by fostering an educational setting that teaches and affirms the following. In the spiritual realm, having a personal and redeeming relationship with Jesus, the Bible as the only standard by which all teaching and experience must be tested, the inspired writings of Ellen G. White that guide us to a greater understanding of the Bible and His character, and using one's own spiritual gifts to actively participate in the gospel commission. That gospel commission that was our text for today that Jared read. In the academic realm, an inner desire to learn and achieve our unique potential and to be a blessing to mankind. Allowing the Bible and a true understanding of nature to mold our students into men and women who possess breadth of mind, clearness of thought, and courage of their convictions. To strive towards our unlimited potential in growth and learning in every branch of true knowledge. In the physical realm, a culture of whole person health and fitness. Now, I don't know, Christine, if you remember this or not, but I remember distinctly that I had a bulletin board up in my classroom. And it had the acronym for something to do with health, and it was the New Start acronym. And we have tried actively to incorporate this into Battle Creek Academy in the recent years. Healthful living, as New Start says, that's N for nutrition, E for exercise, W for water, S for sunshine, T for temperance, fresh air, rest, and T, trust in God. So New Start as a personal lifestyle and a way to witness for Jesus. In the social realm, moral purity and the rejection of all inappropriate influences. Positive and edifying interactions between and among students and the faculty. Active service to our local church and community. Celebrating and leveraging our multicultural diversity. Now, does that sound any different than what's going on in our public system today? just watch the news, listen to what's going on, and it's like night and day. There's no comparison. Now, I'm going to say this. I say this all the time. I will never purport that we have a perfect school. If you can find one, I want to see it, okay? But I do know this, that we have dedicated, God-filled teachers and staff that pray for and with their students and have graduation into heaven as their ultimate goal for their students. We are preparing students for successful service not only in this temporary home that we inhabit, but more importantly, for our eternal home. The Bible is incorporated into all classes, and community service and outreach are a way of life for the students at our school. This school exists to work together with the church and the home for the souls of our youth. So let's learn a bit about the history of the flagship Seventh-day Adventist K-12 school that is just a few miles down the road, and that spawned the worldwide Adventist educational system. I'd like to call this history lesson Started in Battle Creek and Finished in Eternity. And just for this service, not really, we made these for camp meeting. We made a shirt to say that, to celebrate our upcoming anniversary. It says at the top, Started in Battle Creek, and at the bottom it says Finished in Eternity, and it's commemorating 1 year from now our 150th anniversary of being in existence. So if you go to camp meeting sometime this week and you matriculate over to the Battle Creek Academy booth, you might be able to fill out a little form, and one of those shirts will be on your back within minutes. So in our world today, the Seventh-day Adventist Church operates an educational system that circles the globe and includes more than 5,000 institutions. This fine tradition of Adventist education had its beginnings, literally, in Battle Creek, Michigan. In 1856, church member Mrs. Mary Osgood began operating a small school out of her home on the west end of Battle Creek. Mrs. Osgood received 25 cents for each student, we've been there, that attended classes in her home, and she was responsible for the instruction of all subjects. For the next few years, sounds like homeschool, doesn't it? For the next few years, this homeschool continued to operate with a succession of teachers. In 1867, public school teacher Goodloe Harper Bell was recuperating at the Battle Creek Sanitarium when a group of Adventist boys discovered that he was a teacher. The young boys asked Bell if he would consider helping them with grammar, writing, and arithmetic. Bell agreed and soon found himself instructing 12 local students. Among these 12 were the sons of James and Ellen White, James Edson White and William Clarence White, as well as two other well-known names, John Harvey Kellogg and William Keith Kellogg. Mr. Bell had a saying, "A thing worth doing is worth doing well." His students learned quickly to appreciate his efforts to help them understand their lessons. In fact, they were so impressed with his clarity and thoroughness that they begged their parents to get Mr. Bell to start a school. After some consideration, the parents hired Mr. Bell to begin instructing their children, and they provided him with a classroom in the old North Lodge. The room had become a dumping place for cast-off materials from the review office, but with a little cleaning and refurnishing, it became the location for Bell's select school, as they called it. Mary Alice Stewart, one of Bell's students, remembered the select school as being old and rickety and unpainted. The schoolroom was on the second floor, so we climbed the shaky stairs and found ourselves entering a long, low room with long wooden benches for seats. In the center of the room, at one side, facing the door, was the teacher's desk, and the classes assembled on benches in front of it. Professor Bell believed that instruction in his select school must coincide with his newly found Adventist faith. When textbooks containing suitable material were not available, Bell handwrote lessons for his students. If young people were unable to attend his school because they had to work during the day, he began providing early morning and night classes for the young people that were working during the day. It's a different era, wasn't it? However, because the concept of private Adventist education was new, Bell also spent a great deal of time justifying the necessity of his new educational program. His efforts to promote this education that his students were receiving was often interpreted as an effort to exalt himself. Consequently, while Bell continued to operate a successful school, the challenges he faced took their toll and his health began to suffer, owing to overwork in his educational efforts. For 5 years, he persevered. Goodloe Harper Bell was convinced that quality Adventist education was needed and played a crucial role in establishing the first successful Adventist school. At the end of those 5 years, his reputation for conscientious teaching had spread and the enrollment at his school had increased dramatically. As a result, the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, which was right there in Battle Creek, heeded the request of Adventists in Battle Creek and took this special school under its wing. So on June 3, remember that date, on June 3, 1872, Battle Creek Academy opened as the first Seventh-day Adventist denominationally sponsored school and included both an elementary and secondary program, as it still does today. The school was housed in the old print shop at the Review and Herald Publishing House. On that first day of classes, Professor Bell stood at the door and greeted the students as they arrived with their paper and writing utensils. No Chromebooks back then. However, for the pioneers of Adventist education, a church-supported school on the premises of the publishing house was just a stepping stone. As the academy continued to grow, finding sufficient space to accommodate all the students in the Review and Herald building became challenging, especially with the later establishment of Battle Creek College. And in 1901, Battle Creek College, which was spawned out of Battle Creek Academy, moved to where it is now in Berrien Springs, Michigan. It's now known as, well, before that it was known as, where my dad went there, Emmanuel Missionary College, EMC, and now has the name Andrews University. Nonetheless, church leaders were convinced that Adventist young people in the Battle Creek area still needed the opportunity to have a Christian education. With this in mind, they determined to construct a building with adequate classrooms and learning space. On September 3, 1903, ground was broken for an SDA school building. 1 year later, a brand new academy opened on North Kendall Street. This 3-story building housed a number of classrooms and provided its 5 faculty members with sufficient space to teach all the essentials of a quality Christian education. For over 40 years, BCA operated from this building on North Kendall Street. Many of the Academy's alumni fondly recall attending classes at this location. Then on April 11, 1945, what was Battle Creek known for back then? Fire. A consuming fire sounded the doom of the school on Kendall Street. The Battle Creek Inquirer News stated this: Battle Creek Academy, the Seventh-day Adventist school on North Kendall Street, was extensively damaged by fire early this morning and was closed to its 222 students. School principal, Mr. Garber, canceled classes for the remainder of the week, only for the week, but stated that classes would open soon, either on the premises in areas that weren't damaged by fire or in another building, several of which were available. When it became evident that the state fire marshal was going to condemn the building due to extensive damage from the fire, smoke, water, and all the other, dedicated parents, students, and friends wondered how would they ever recover from the loss of their beloved school. For a time, classes were held in an old building near the Kellogg Field Airport. But to those concerned for Adventist young people, it would take much more than a fire to quell their vision for Adventist education. Planning began. Members of the church established a committee and launched an appeal for funds to construct a completely modern school for classrooms from elementary through high school grades and also a social hall. On August 29, 1948, the Battle Creek Inquirer News announced a dream will be realized. September 9, with the opening of school in the new Battle Creek Academy building on 180 Welch Avenue. This contemporary Battle Creek Academy, built on 43 acres of land, was a $225,000 unit that we can't even put the roof on for that at this point, that housed the most modern facilities and had approximately 1,500 window lights, ensuring excellent visibility. The new facility also utilized solar radiation and oil burner steam heat with forced draft ventilation and humidity control. It doesn't work quite as well right now as it used to back then. Superintendent M. Dale Hanna and a faculty of 14 provided students with a curriculum including French, English, science, history, math, industrial arts, accounting, secretarial, and domestic sciences, music, printing, and physical therapy. In 1948, the city of Battle Creek has since 1948, the city of Battle Creek has renamed Welch Avenue to Parkway Drive. Accordingly, the Academy's address is now 480 Parkway Drive, but the building housing the current Academy is that which was built in 1948. Through the years, several modifications and additions, including the gymnasium, the chapel, the band room, have been made to the building to ensure the rich tradition of Adventist education continues in Battle Creek. For many years, BCA has enjoyed strong heritage of excellence in music education. Over the years, they have had the opportunity to serve their community through involvement in projects such as the Battle Creek Paint Blitz, Senior Citizens Banquets, Habitat for Humanity, the Christmas Party for Underprivileged Children, the South Michigan Food Bank, leaf raking, hurricane cleanup efforts, and mission trips. With the closing of the Battle Creek Sanitarium in the late 1970s, how many of you missed that Fieldstone building when you drive downtown? Yeah. Well, the Adventist population in Battle Creek began to diminish as that building went away and that hospital closed. So right now, like I said, we're serving a large percentage of local and immigrant students who have made Battle Creek their home. This demographic change at the Academy has shifted our paradigm to a mission school approach that demands a higher level of monetary support from its constituents and its donors. When Goodloe Harper Bell began his educational ministry, he sought to develop a practical, balanced program founded in Bible teachings that would nurture students' physical, mental, and spiritual growth. Our caring and qualified teachers continually seek to provide that safe, nurturing, Christ-centered Seventh-day Adventist educational program that promotes excellence in our students' spiritual, academic, physical, and social development to prepare them for service in this world and in the world to come. To continue this mission, we're striving to broaden our donor base, and we ask you prayerfully consider if you're not already to become part of that donor pool and support us systematically with your financial gifts. There will be folks who can't do this, and we understand. If that's not in your wheelhouse at this time, there are other things you can do to support us. You can give of your time. We have work bees. There are students that need to be read to and to be listened to. There are teachers that could use help. So time, you can give of that. And if that's not it, if you're physically unable to do those type of things, the one thing we can all do is that we can all pray. We can keep it, Battle Creek Academy, on our prayer list every day. With your help, we can continue to reach students for Christ until his soon return, when 480 Parkway Drive will no longer be needed. In closing, I'd like to invite you to our 150th anniversary celebration, which will take place on June 3, 2022. So that's less than a year away. We're going to combine our alumni weekend next year with that celebration so that folks don't have to make two trips, just a few weeks apart. And we are planning for some exciting things for that weekend as we remember how God has led and guided us for the past 150 years. As I said, as I close today, I've got, if you go to camp meeting, you'll be able to get some of these too, but I brought along today some brochures that are kind of a condensed version of what I told you today about the history of Battle Creek Academy. If anybody would like one of those, we'll have those at the back after the service. And it's just this little brochure that kind of condenses those, the history of BCA into a nice little easy read. And then the last thing I will do, so I will unabashedly advertise for BCA. We started a merit scholarship program this year. We have lots of programs because, as I said, our demographics have changed at the school. Over 80% of our students require some financial aid to attend, some level of financial aid to attend. And so we have many programs to help with those in financial need. But we're starting this year a program to promote excellence in education. We're calling it the Merit-Based Scholarship Program. And so we're just looking for about 120 donors that would donate about $200 each a year that would fund that program. And we can give scholarships to students that are on the honor roll and principals list on a semester basis. And I've got one of those brochures that we put together. My son, Shad, I said, who worked at the school, has helped me a lot with these brochures. His graphics degree has come in handy. And I did on the history brochure, one of the people that spoke here when they came with the teachers, Janelle Sundin, she helped me as we put that one together. So anyway, I'd just like I said, if you can at a minimum continue to support the combined budget of the Delton Church, which supports the Battle Creek Academy, and also let's not forget to continue to support our school in the Philippines. We have no idea what that support will do eternally. And it's not our job to worry about that either, because God takes care of that. We just need to lend our support. So I thank you for having me do my part. If I would have spoke that week, those teachers only would have had a few minutes to fill in their part, and that way they got a turn and I got a turn. So let's all, like I said, keep BCA and Delton View in our prayers going forward. Dear Lord, we thank you once again for the opportunity to look back and see how you have paved the way for us going forward. We thank you for your hand that guides us, for your hand that embraces us, for your hand that holds us up, for your hand that points us to the way that we are to go. We ask you to continue to do so. We ask you to come quickly. We pray in your name. Amen.